Good afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Now, following yesterday's win against Stoke City in the Carabao Cup and also our defeat against Brighton last time out in the Premier League at the Amex, we do have the visit from Arsenal, a side managed by Mikel Arteta and also with significant signings made in the summer. The likes of Declan Rice, Kai Havertz and Jurrien Timber joined the club. Now, I do have a very, very special guest with me today. That guest is from the leading YouTube channel dedicated to a football club. Of course, that channel being Arsenal Fan TV. And it is a pleasure to welcome back onto the show James from AFTV. Good afternoon, James. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good. It's great to be back. Look forward to another lively game. They've been quite lively between the two. But yeah, I'm all good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Especially that one at the Emirates. That was quite an
Yeah,
exciting game.
yeah. And I remember, being on this channel back at the time. And you guys weren't feeling too good about survival hopes and all that. But Bournemouth had shown a lot and came through, and obviously changed manager since. Um, but Bournemouth, ended really impressively. So the trouble you caused us at the Emirates ended up proving sort of true to form rather than oh, we caught you on a bad day or whatever. Bournemouth did really well, picked up some big results that day. Arsenal showed, I don't know, champions mentality, all that rubbish. I mean, obviously we
Mm.
never became champions, but we had to dig really deep and find a way to win that game, and we did. So it was incredibly dramatic, in lots of ways. But I'm delighted you guys are still in the division. I think you thoroughly deserve to be. And I've actually tipped you guys for a really big season. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's a good test.
We'll come back to the Bournemouth manager and also how it links into Arteta because there is something that really does link them. And I did a video with somebody who was quite impressive. Unfortunately, he doesn't speak much English, so I had to kind of narrate everything myself. But we'll come back to that in a bit. But let's go back to last season and, of
Yeah,
course, where it all dropped off. And it was pretty much after that Man City game, wasn't it? It all started to
yeah,
fall apart slowly, and I think it culminated in that Forest defeat, didn't it, at the City ground?
yeah. I think it went wrong long before that, actually. The thing was, we went on a bad run in February where we lost at Goodison. That can
Mm,
happen. That can happen,
yeah,
Goodison Park and all that. But more often than not, the champions of England just find a way. That's why I was so happy we won there a few weeks ago. It was like a really good kind of marker we put down to say, look, we've come here, we've won, we've got the Goodison curse past us. But it started a chain of bad results where
hmm,
we drew at home to Brentford. We just lost to Man City in the FA Cup, and then we went to no, we hosted Man City at the Emirates. Tomiyasu makes an error on the first goal. We go 1-0 down. We fight hard to come back into it. We could have and should have gone 2-1 up in that game, in my opinion. I thought we played well enough to win that game, but we end
yeah,
up losing again via another error. And it started, and the reason I talk about that game in so much detail there is because it just started a chain reaction of errors in games costing us big time. And you saw it then in the Bournemouth game, conceding in the first minute, really sloppy, poor defending. No one should ever concede in the first minute. Although it was a brilliant routine from Bournemouth, I'll give credit
yeah,
to that. And there were just so many other moments where you know, Ramsdale against Southampton. And then we did actually put together another 7 games on the bounce, which was brilliant, only to follow it with another run of 4 or 5 games. But that second half of the season was littered with errors and not even necessarily bad defending, just incredibly open defending, very kind of punch for punch. And over 38 games, that takes a toll, and we couldn't really hack it. So, yeah, it was a disappointing end to the season, yeah, and you saw a lot of those mistakes and that kind of vulnerability rear its head when we played you guys at the Emirates.
See, I did think, and I said it early on in the season, I thought that Arsenal were going to go on to win it because I thought that the way you were playing early on in the season was, head and shoulders above everybody, including Manchester City. Now, of course,
Mm,
Man City, fantastic side, Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, they really did show their quality, and that's why they won the treble in the end.
yeah,
But it felt like it was Arsenal's year. And really, what I wanted to come on to is, do you feel that the side have got better since that point, or do you think it might have tailed off, even despite, the three signings, three outstanding signings, I should say, Havertz, Jurrien Timber, and of course, we can't forget Declan Rice. Do you feel
so
that it maybe has kind of tailed off a little bit?
it's a great question. And I think Arsenal fans we're in a period of understanding this team where so so I was just talking about how open we were last year,
Mm,
and that's absolutely true. And but we played some scintillating football. I mean, you
yeah,
watch some of the highlights of our first half of the season. I mean, it was like top draw stuff, you know. I mean, only the Centurions and the great Barcelona side of 2009 to 11 can I think of playing like better football. I know that might seem like really high
yeah,
praise, but I mean, it was, and not only, and that high praise is probably warranted, not only because we were playing well, we were top of the league because we had
mm,
50 points by the halfway stage. We were on course for a 100-point season. So I think it's fair to compare to the Centurions and to those great sides and the way we were playing football. But the fluidity dropped off slightly, and that kind of coincided with the Jesus injury, but more so because, well, maybe we lost Jesus, so we weren't quite as potent or whatever, although we were scoring goals. We became very open. I think teams started to realize that, you know what, they're throwing plays forward, and yeah, they're brilliant in attack, but they're leaving something going the other way.
yeah,
Now, in this season, we haven't looked as fluid, but we haven't looked as open. We haven't
mm,
looked as uh breakable, kind of, and that's not the word, but you don't feel like you can cut through us with ease. And what's been really interesting watching Arsenal is, on the one hand, we're frustrated because we don't feel like we're going to score with every attack, which is what we felt last season. But the opposition don't feel like they're going to do anything either. So we just drew 2-2 at Tottenham. And Arsenal fans in the aftermath were infuriated by it. And there was loads of things that
yeah,
piled onto it. It was the injury list. It was the errors that led to goal. The fact it's a North London derby. The team selection, the subs. There's lots of things that I think piled onto it. The expectation, a big part. But actually, while it took a deflected goal and a penalty for us to score, we had other opportunities and we could have been 2-3 nil up by half
mm,
time. Tottenham actually had very little in that game. They played some brilliant stuff. They
yeah,
were very composed, and they showed that they're buying into Ange Postecoglou very early and very quickly. But actually, we allowed very, very little. And that's been a theme of all our games. We
mm,
beat Nottingham Forest 2-1, but it was actually a 3-0 performance. We drew 2-2 with Fulham, but it was really a 2-3-1 win, like in terms of the performance we put out there, is what I'm saying.
yeah,
The Palace away game, we won 1-0. We had to hold on with 10 men. Everton away, we won 1-0. We had to not hold on, but, just be kind of professional throughout. But those performances were 2-3-0 performances. Now, I know it sounds crazy. I keep saying our
mm,
results should have been better than the results were. But what I'm trying to say is that we've had a really good defensive structure. We've allowed the teams very little while doing enough to get a couple goals ourselves. So I
yeah,
think Arteta is evolving us into a team that is far more pragmatic while still not, what's the word? While still not giving up on our
yeah,
philosophy and what we want to do and our way of playing. And we've been good this year. We've just not been as exciting. So hopefully over 38 games that translates to far fewer defeats, far fewer
mhm.
goals conceded, and therefore a title race. But whether we are good enough to win a league, I don't know. But I do think there's a very good chance we have improved on last year. I just don't think it's quite evident to the eye yet. It's not as exciting for sure.
Do you know what? I'm going to bring my question forward about, of course, the comparison between Arteta and Andoni Iraola, because of both of them are Basque managers. And Basque managers, of course, Lopetegui as was and Unai Emery, two others. They do have a sort of style of play where they like to keep hold of the ball, press really high. And one thing I've found, and comparing him against Gary O'Neill, because we seem to go a bit more direct under Gary O'Neill, it was a little bit more, it was a bit more scrappy. It wasn't pretty football, but it was effective. What we seem to be doing is playing beautiful football now, and we're not seeming to be getting the goals up front as often from different positions, but also we seem to be making the mistakes at the back. And it seems like we are trying to transition into the Arsenal way of playing. Does that sound similar to what you had to go through at the Emirates?
Yep, strap in. Yeah, yeah, it is. You'll see errors. You'll want to tear your hair out, but you have to believe that it's about improving and making those errors
Mhm,
because eventually you're going to reap the rewards of playing out the back. Clubs will be encouraged to press you. You'll play out the press. You'll attack more open teams.
mhm.
You just got to be patient with it. And um, Iraola comes with really, really high praise from,
Yeah,
well, Mikel Arteta himself mentioned him when he was
yeah.
listing the great managers in the league. Um, and others who have followed his journey in Spain say, this was one of the most. What was his previous club? I forget.
Rayo Vallecano.
Right. A lot of people said that, he really impressed there. Um, so, yeah, you do have to be patient with it. I
Mhm.
think and I really and I don't want to. I think I've said this line before on this podcast that I don't want to sound condescending, but it's true of Arsenal fans too. And whether I I believe that if my team are going to go through struggles and teething periods and
Mhm.
growing pains, I would much rather they did it trying to play really good football. Now, Bournemouth, I don't think results wise. I mean, are you? I haven't even sorry because I've been ill. I haven't sort of done all my research going into this game yet. But are you winless so far in the league? A couple
We
of
are,
draws, right?
yeah, yeah. So we're winless, three draws, the
Right.
rest being defeats.
Yeah, but three draws and three defeats isn't like a terrible return.
No.
I mean, you haven't won yet, but it's like
Mhm.
you're not getting beaten easily. And I watched your game against Tottenham. Yes, Tottenham looked like they could score with every attack, but actually, you looked like
Yep.
you were going to score when you came forward. Chelsea had chances, but you absolutely had chances. And so I think my feeling with Bournemouth is you're going to entertain at least through this teething period, this difficult time. But I think you're going to have plenty to actually get over the line. Dominic Solanke, who I think I read is a doubt for this game, but I'm not 100% sure if that's proven
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, he did
Um,
come off yesterday.
Okay. So, he's the kind of player, he leads the line. He's quite complete as a striker. So he'll kind
Yeah.
of bring players into play. You've got other exciting attacking options like Uatra and Cliver and players like that who I think could thrive. David Brooks coming back into the team, I think will thrive under this manager who wants to play good attacking football. It's also part of your DNA. You came up with Eddie Howe playing really good attacking football. It's not like, oh, Bournemouth are trying to be this. Bournemouth made their name
Mhm.
come into the Premier League, being brave, being attacking. And I think you finished ninth under Howe. Was that your highest finish?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the second season,
Right.
we did have Jack
There you go.
Wilshere on loan from you guys at the time, though, as
Well, there
well.
you go. And he did quite
Yeah.
well, I think. Well, I hope it. I mean,
Yeah.
and there you go. I know my Bournemouth quite well. Who knew?
Yeah.
But my thing is, I've tipped you guys to finish 10th this year, and I know that
Mhm.
now 6 games in might feel like a bit of a stretch, but when everyone was going for Burnley as their surprise of the season, I was saying,
Mm.
Iraola with a club like Bournemouth who are, showing new investment in the team, and are backing the manager. I think you guys will be all right. And I think just there's been early signs of the football we've been playing, but you do have to be patient with it because
Mhm.
with Arteta, we didn't even get the good football that quickly. It actually took a while for the players to really understand.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think there's more of a demand to win now at Arsenal. So he had to sort of be malleable and play around with the systems, try and get results a bit more instantly as well, while trying to implement the style of play. And actually, we didn't start to look like the team we wanted to be until Arteta went, right, F this. I'm basically one defeat from losing my job. So if I'm going
Mhm.
to lose it, I'm going to lose it my way. And he basically brought Smith Rowe in, Martinelli, Saka, younger players, reverted to a back four because we've been playing a back five. Suddenly we
Yeah.
looked exciting again. So, well, or better for sure.
Mhm.
And I think that's essentially what Iraola is going to have to do. Play his way, stick to it. You might have some bumpy moments, but I think Bournemouth will absolutely benefit from it.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. And to be honest, I did release a video the other day which was quite critical of Iriola and just those concerns. But I'm hoping you're right, and he does follow the Arteta way. And we do get to a point where we are scoring a lot more goals. We're not making those mistakes at the back, and everything just clicks. And hopefully,
Yeah.
that's only a couple of
If
weeks
you don't
away.
mind me asking, what were the critiques of Iraola?
I think really it was the case that we was making too many mistakes at the back, that we were keeping possession really well. We were the better side in the first half against Brighton. We didn't take our opportunities when they did come along. We should have had a penalty as well. But really it was the mistakes at the back. So when Neto and Kirkes made a mistake, I think that's probably on the players, probably on the captain, Neto on that one. But also how we set up in the second half as well. There was seemed to be no plan B, no plan C, because Brighton changed their formation and 16 and I don't know how you do this, 16 seconds from kickoff, our own kickoff, we've conceded through Matoma. So there is concerns on that front. Is just that defensive frailty, making those errors because we're trying to play out from the back, nice passing football. Whereas these players last season were used to being very direct and being a bit. The football wasn't great under Gary O'Neill. I was a big fan of his, but the football, in all honesty, wasn't particularly very good. And
Yeah.
I can understand why some Wolves fans are already fed up with him. I think he'll get them over the line, but I think it's just the way he plays football. It's not attractive on the eye. It's horrible football. Um,
Well, it's interesting because I actually Wolves I thought looked good in the cup some of the games I'd seen against Man
yeah,
United and Liverpool they played recently. I thought they played a really
they did.
high
Yeah.
press, aggressive style. But there's one thing doing it for 45 minutes or a period of time and
Mm,
looking like that's your way, and there's another thing instilling it over a period of time. But yeah, Gary O'Neill, look, he did his thing, right? He kept you guys up. But I actually I admire the ambition from Bournemouth to say thank you, but this isn't actually what we're about, and they're well within their right to do that.
yeah, completely agree with you on that, mate, because I think Bill Foley has got a philosophy. He has taken ice hockey to the desert, which is already an unthinkable thing. How he thought that up, I don't know. But then, he's gone and won the Stanley Cup in the NHL, sorry, I should say. And what he's trying to do here is, yeah, we're not going to win the Premier League. We're not, unrealistic. But I think he's wanting to drive us into those European places, you know, in contention for those. That's where he wants to get us.
But
So he's
that's
got that ambition.
incredibly doable. I mean,
Mm,
you got to think right now. They're saying that there's this fifth Champions League spot, which is based on coefficient, and England have an
yeah.
80% chance of getting that fifth spot. Okay, so that's great. So if the first five are Champions League, and then you're going to the next two, sixth and seventh for Europa, and then the eighth gets conference.
Mm,
Now they've added this competition. From 3 years ago, there's two places added now because
yeah.
of that conference and that extra Champions League. So where you've got the big six, sure, that used to feel like, oh well, that's European football kind of
Yeah.
dominated there. But now you've got these openings. Brighton are brilliant now, but will they be in 2, 3 years? We will see. I mean, is it sustainable to keep selling your best assets, keep being brilliant, have the best managers, have them taken? I don't know. But we've seen other clubs be there, Southampton, Swansea, relegated since. So,
Yeah.
the opportunity, if you invest right and build steadily, absolutely is there. If someone told me Bournemouth play Europa League football in the next 3 years, I wouldn't be shocked. There'd be no part of me going, wow, really? I'd be, yeah, okay, that seems absolutely doable. What there's always two of the big six. I mean, I'm saying that, but yeah, the
Yeah.
traditional big six. All that. There's always two that have an off season and drop to
Mm.
a sixth or a seventh, and that's just what football's been the last few years. So the openings are there.
Well, if you said back in 2008 that Bournemouth would be in European football, I think I would have thought you'd be barking mad, to be honest, James. But of course, minus 17, down the bottom of League Two, it'd be a tremendous story. And the next next step on the ladder, really.
Yeah,
So I'm hoping that you're right on that front. But let's bring it
unreal
back to
story.
Arsenal, because somebody we know very well, Aaron Ramsdale, has been dropped and replaced with former Brentford goalkeeper David Raya. What was Arteta's thinking behind that?
Well, uh, take your pick that he's ruthless, that
Hmm.
Ramsdale's not good enough, that he wants competition for goalkeepers, that I don't know, that he likes to cause a stir. I don't know. I don't know. We really actually don't know about this one.
Yeah.
The early signs are Raya played the first Champions League game and the last two league games in a row. That
Yeah.
tells you he's his number one, which means he's
Hmm.
brought him to improve on Ramsdale. And he's well within his right to do that. Like
Yeah.
Bournemouth are well within their right to sack Gary O'Neill, who did nothing wrong and kept
Hmm.
you up. And it's very easy for outsiders to say all this. And my word, has there been a lot of outside opinion on this Ramsdale stuff.
Hmm.
He deserved better and blah blah blah, and he's done well for you and what you're doing. And hold on, if Mikel Arteta feels that
Yeah.
David Raya is even a 2% improvement on Aaron Ramsdale, he has every right to do that deal because it might be the 2% that costs us against Man City.
Hmm.
And these are the things that I think cause up such a stir. And you're right to ask the question, and we've been debating it loads. But it does feel like the media have had such a weird perspective on this. They've been so like it's such a drama. Um, I do think it's a talking point because Aaron Ramsdale's been good, and
Hmm.
he hasn't let us down really. In fact, he saved us a lot last season.
Yeah.
Um, but Ray is just also a very good goalkeeper and has worked with the Arsenal goalkeeping coach before, and
Hmm.
Arteta's wanted him before, and he's now with us. And I also think it was a bit of a market opportunity. 30 million to get a player of Ray's quality in. You probably sell him a year later for 45 if you really wanted to. You
Yeah.
could, and you could probably sell Ramsdale for 50. So I think that's part of it, but it feels like smart business generally. Whether it's who ends up number one, I don't know. I like Aaron Ramsdale. I'd like it to work for him,
Hmm.
but I'm not sat here like absolutely convinced it's going to work for him. I don't know. I think there's been signs of encouragement, but I don't know. It's a very weird one. Do you guys have a take on it? I mean, obviously Ramsdale, former Bournemouth.
I think Ray is a really, really good goalkeeper. I might as well touch on him first. He did a fantastic job at Brentford, was virtually ever present for them. So I can see why Arteta brought him in. Likewise, I do really rate Aaron Ramsdale. He does have mistakes in him, admittedly. Every goalkeeper does. Of course, that game against Southampton last season, he made a number of errors, didn't he? Really, it wasn't one of his best. He probably doesn't look back on it, but he is a very good goalkeeper, and I think, personally, I think he should be England number one. I think he should be England number one. I think he's better than Pickford.
Yeah, I agree. I
Maybe
can't stand Pickford.
no, I can't. I don't think he's maybe as authoritative as Pickford is. Pickford will shout at his defence, but that's probably because Everton aren't particularly very good and they need it.
I think
Um,
even I'd be shouting at Everton, to be fair, if I were in
well,
goal for them.
exactly, mate. They're appalling. And although saying that, against Brentford the other day, they were pretty good. Um,
Yeah, and some of their underlying numbers are weirdly quite impressive, but yeah, they were poor against us for sure.
but I think Ramsdale, I think is the future or should be England number one. I'm just worried now that if he's dropped, and there has been this media furor that has gone on about, his reaction when David Raya made that fantastic save on Saturday, on Sunday, I should say, where he was applauding. I personally think that's him just supporting his teammates,
Yeah,
whereas
yeah.
a lot more has been made of it, hasn't it?
Well, and also it's funny, but I get called a fence sitter on AFTV. I do it quite well, but that's exactly where I stand on this Ramsdale thing, which is they were saying it was performative, the clapping and all that.
Mm,
And my opinion is it was performative, but not in the way people think. I
Yeah.
think he was criticised, not criticised, but there were murmurings on social media that on the bench against Everton, when the camera panned to him, he looked miserable or sulky or whatever. It's
Hmm.
incredible that anyone can form a judgment off 30 seconds of footage. Not even probably 5, 10
Yeah.
seconds, but there you go. And then I think he knew that if Raya were to do something great, the camera would come to him. And I think he
Hmm.
just wanted to say, to just make it very clear, I'm supporting my teammate. If he does something brilliant, I'm absolutely behind him. Goalkeepers union, I'm there with him, blah, blah, blah. It's all good. So I think he maybe did. It looked a bit exaggerative, and the big clap, and then the look to the
Yeah.
side. He's a slightly dramatic character, so that might just be him,
Hmm.
quite possibly. I love him, by the way. I love his character. I want to say
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Um, but it probably was a little bit performative. But not in like a. I don't think it was in a. I'm sort of taking the piss and let me. Yeah, I'm really good for the team. I don't think that's what he was trying to do.
Mm.
I think he was just trying to say, guys, I'm really behind him, genuinely. Like, and let me show you I'm behind him by applauding when he does something great. And so I think it was just taken out of proportion, as always, because it's Arsenal. Let's all pile in when it's Arsenal. And
The
yes, I'm
one.
defensive when it comes to that stuff.
The wonderful world of media and social
Yeah,
media, especially X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, whatever Elon Musk is going to come up with this week. That
yeah.
place, well,
He's
it's
ruined
just.
it, by the way. But anyway,
Oh, he has, yes, yes. I can't stand the place, to be perfectly honest. But
yeah,
um, let's move on to Declan Rice.
yeah,
Um,
what a plan.
100 million. Is he what you expected at the start?
Yeah, I'd say he's gone above and beyond that because I thought a slow start. I thought it'd take a little bit of time. What Partey did last year that was so underrated, in my opinion, was in a side that didn't have De Bruyne, Gundogan,
Mm,
Haaland leading the line, the most formidable back, options in the back four. And by the way, we had great options, don't get me wrong,
yeah.
Erdegaard and Jesus and our players. What Partey did was constantly ask for the ball under pressure and either give it immediately and keep the ball moving. He'd turn into space. He recognized when there was a pass through the lines. And I think he did it as well as any defensive midfielder in the league last year. The threading through the line, starting attack,
Mhm.
being the orchestrator for a team. Rodri's very clutch and far more established in that role. Partey was a box-to-box player. He's had to learn it in the last 2 years whilst being riddled with injuries. Now, Rice coming in, I thought, well, it's taken Partey so long to understand that. Will Rice pick it up so quickly? But my word, has he? Now, his notable moments in the sixth role are actually the defensive moments. He's an incredible duel winner, incredible
Yeah.
ball winner, wins his headers. And when you think a player's about to pick up the ball in loads of space, his ability to get back and stick a leg out and then get us back going in transition is absolutely phenomenal. He does a one-man job in there. Like I've never seen anything like it. I really haven't.
Yeah.
His ability to cover ground as a pure defensive midfielder is superb. On the ball, he's really impressed,
Hmm.
but you can just tell he's not got Partey's same languid coolness on the ball, where I think Partey tricks defenders into thinking he's going to do one thing and then going the other way. And that opens up avenues for us and it gives us a real fluidity. He kind of sets the tone with that. Haven't seen
Yeah.
that from Rice yet, but I think Arteta's absolutely got the intention of playing both at times. We haven't seen that as much because of the Zinchenko injury. He moved Partey to
Mhm.
right back, so he'd invert from there. And then I think he also wanted to at times see Partey in the six with Rice box to box, which we've seen once against City in the Community Shield, but we haven't since. So I think Arsenal at their best when both are in the midfield. Um, but yeah, Rice he's been very good. A little quiet against Tottenham, but we now found out it was started back problems. And I'm
Yeah.
actually going to take that at face value because Palace away, Everton away, Man United at home.
Mhm.
He's not shied away from any of those big games and big performances, and he stepped up to it. And he was actually doing fine against Tottenham before he came off. So nothing to suggest that there was like a performance related issue there. He was okay, but yeah, the back problem, and we really hope he's back for this game because I think knowing that you guys go punch for punch, we're going to need him in transition to help us simmer you down while we try and play our
Yeah.
football.
No, fair enough. We're hoping he isn't available, but then
Yeah,
again, wish
yeah,
him the very, very best. Tell you what, he's a fantastic player. What he did with West Ham as well, and how he controlled the game,
yeah,
especially the 4-0 win that West Ham got down here at the end of last season. He was phenomenal that game, and of course that led all the way up to that Europa Conference League final. So, fair play, and I think he's going to be a real asset for Arsenal. But of course, you
yeah,
also signed Kai Havertz from Chelsea. He's played all six
yeah.
games this season. What sort of effects he had?
None. Sorry.
I thought you was going to say that because I was looking at some of the details, and yeah, he's an interesting one, isn't he? Because you signed him
Yeah.
for a lot of money. Um, to be
Let me
honest,
be fair.
yeah,
Let me
go
be
on.
fair. And genuinely fair. Does he look a £65 million attacking midfielder? No. If he came in
Hmm.
as a £25 million defensive midfielder who
Yeah.
Arteta was trying to convert into a more attacking player,
Hmm.
I don't think anyone would have anything to say about him. Like I
Hmm.
think perspective and his history and who he's meant to be versus what he's being is a big part of that. Now, let me elaborate. What do I mean by that? Well, he's weirdly good in duels. Like he actually gets quite stuck in. He doesn't look the
Yeah.
strongest. He looks quite flimsy going into tackles, but he does get stuck in. He seems to be right place, right time, get involved. He knows how to press. He knows how to mark space and keep players sort of away from the right areas. He's actually done very well in that. He's been winning a lot of headers. Like
Hmm.
he's been really good in aerial battles and aerial duels. He's a neat pass and move player. Like in the game yesterday against Brentford, there were moments where we had sustained spells of possession, particularly down his side, and he was a key part of that. He seems to know where to be, what the rotations are, when he gets the ball, where to give it next, where to move after that, where to keep, how to keep everything running and ticking.
Hmm.
And he's actually been able to sort of facilitate our play just casually progressing through a game. He weirdly allows us a little bit of control, I think, via the way he presses and
Yeah.
keeps the ball quite efficiently. But this is like scraping the barrel kind of praise. And
Hmm.
that's not to say these things don't matter. They do, but I also don't think Vieira can't do the same thing. Hell, I don't think El Neni could not do what he's doing, basically.
Yeah.
And El Neni is our fourth choice defensive midfielder. He's just keeping things ticking, but that's only even recent games. Yeah, at the start of the season, it felt like he was actually actively hampering us, like the Man United and
Hmm.
Fulham games before the international break. So, what we're looking for is more conviction from him. That
Yeah.
when he gets in the final third, he has a bit more drive, that he's like actually believing in himself. We haven't really seen much of that at the moment. There's one point against Brentford where he actually sprinted for the first time in an Arsenal shirt, and then and you thought you got away from his man, and then he slowed down inexplicably, and then that's
Yeah.
when he lost the ball. So there's a confidence thing there. Arteta has largely got most of his signings right, though in central midfield he's struggled a little bit to get that right profile, that right target. Havertz has all the attributes. He can win headers. He seems to get involved in duels. He's got nice touch on him. He can pass the ball. Supposedly he's a decent finisher, though we haven't seen that much of that. And he's 6'3" and he can play across multiple
Yeah.
positions. Havertz could be
Hmm.
the perfect midfielder for Mikel Arteta and for Arsenal.
Yeah.
But we are a long way off seeing that. Like we are very far. We're not even able to say, "Oh, we can see it." Bit raw, but we can see it. We're not seeing it. So the credit I gave him, it's deserved for those things, but
Hmm.
he's quite a way off being what we need him to be right now.
He's still a youngster, isn't he? And he will hopefully improve year on year.
Well, he's
But
24,
yeah.
I think. Yeah, he's 24. So yes, he is still young. But what's staggering and alarming is
Hmm.
how far he looks off what a confident Kai Havertz must look like. Like he
Yeah.
looks incredibly scared to make any mistake. I don't think he is. I don't think he's playing the game terrified of making errors, but I definitely think he's playing the game fearing making an error in like a
Mhm.
I don't want to get this wrong. Not scared, but just like I want to do the safe thing here. I also think he's probably had an overload of information from Arteta. Rice has spoken to Rio Ferdinand about how it's a lot of information to take in early, and that will be what you do off the ball, what you do with the ball, the runs you've got to make when the ball's in particular areas. Iraola will be instilling all this into his Bournemouth players as well. It's you have 25 tasks for 25
Yeah.
different situations. Learn them. Football has evolved beyond instinct and just formations and free flowing natural principles of football. It's far more calculated and everything is
Mhm.
methodical and everything is designed and planned now. And these managers like Arteta, Iraola, Pep Guardiola, Eric Ten Hag, um, Xavi, they are all
Mhm.
trying to implement this. And Havertz will be taking all that info on. And you can see that his brain is just like ticking with everything he does. But hopefully he comes good. He's a good player. Oh, well, I think he's a good player. He's a talented footballer for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, definitely. I guess that philosophy started, didn't it, with Arsene Wenger, all those years
Yeah.
ago. He was the one that really brought in, that. I guess it was the depth of football, wasn't it? How far he looked into everything, and okay, if a team does this, we do this, and really, really built that up. So I guess that Arteta and Diriola and people like that are just following on from that. The great work that Arsene Wenger did early days.
Well, it's so funny with Arsene because he was like a pioneer in the
Hmm.
like he started a revolution in football, of doing all these
Yeah.
new ways and looking at the game completely differently. And then the reason I believe he lost his job, we don't know for sure, but I believe
Mm.
there was a word and a nudge and a listen, leave with respect kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and actually, I think the reason that came about was because football then moved so far beyond him. And actually, the way Pep Guardiola started to reinvent the game, the high press from Jurgen Klopp, work rate, physicality, game plans, key structures in games were all beyond Wenger. Like he didn't have a physical back four and physical midfielders. Hell, he never really signed a defensive midfielder to to finally get Arsenal that rock they needed so everyone could play. He went years without a striker. Our football just felt like, you know, play your tick attacker, and hope you come through. And we had talented enough players to come through most games, but football's evolved massively now, and it just evolved beyond him, unfortunately.
No, fair enough. Of course, the other player that you signed, Jurrien Timber, and a player that I really do rate, of course, signed
Yeah.
from Ajax. He's been very unlucky. He was injured, but there is a possibility, or not, it depends on what you're going to tell me, that he might be back for this game.
Oh, Jurrien Timber.
Yes.
Oh, no chance. No, no, I'm not sure. I don't know. Who told you that?
It was something I was reading. It's something I was
Wow.
reading that he was coming back, but
Oh, wow.
um,
I
yeah,
mean, that would be extraordinary. No, he won't be back.
no, that's
We
fair
we
enough.
we don't think he'll be back till February, March. Um,
Yeah.
but in fairness, where the confusion might be, in fairness to
Mhm.
your source, wherever that was read, is that Partey, Rice, Trossard, and Martinelli, who've all had big injuries. Bukayo Saka, we don't know about either.
Yeah.
I say big injuries; they've all had injuries and missed some significant games or minutes. They are looking like being back for City next week and touch and go for Bournemouth. So that might be where the big injury list and the confusion might have happened. But Timber he looked mustard the minute he came in.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen a player take to a club so quickly. Well, for Arsenal anyway, he just
Mhm.
slotted in like it was nothing. Um, the problem is that he's picked up this ACL injury that I'm slightly
Yeah.
questioning what exactly went on with that injury. And there's suggestions and signs he could be back sooner than. Well,
Mhm.
Arsenal never gave a date. Arsenal didn't say March. Everyone else said March. Arsenal under Arteta are renowned for lying to everyone.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be totally surprised if he's back early in the new year. I wouldn't be. Just
Mhm.
things like he limped off the pitch. You don't limp off the pitch with an ACL. You see them
No.
strapped up and being carried off because it's agony. He then reports that he was walking around for 2 hours after the game, basically thinking it numbed and it was okay, only to for scans to show that it was very serious. They then said it was an ACL, but They didn't quite specify what was going on. I don't know how to explain. I just think Arsenal want the world to think he's out for the season. But I
Yeah.
think there's a good chance he plays a lot of the second half, actually. I just think the clues are there that Arsenal are basically indirectly saying he might be okay, guys. So hopefully.
Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, fingers crossed he's back sooner rather than later.
Hope
But
so.
it's very unlikely. And the source that I was reading is completely and utterly wrong by the sounds of it.
I mean, like, where I'll give the benefit of the doubt is
Yeah.
they might have listed off the injuries and saying that they could be back sooner than expected, and
Mhm.
Bournemouth is touch and go for some. So maybe it got lost in translation there, because that is a true story, that there are a lot of players we didn't think were going to be available for this game, and
Yeah.
certainly for City are looking like they might be available now. So that might be. I'll give the benefit there.
Nah, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, of course, we've covered off the Spurs game, but the return to the Champions League as well was quite impressive the other night, wasn't it?
Yeah, very good, very good. I thought there'd be, and actually, let me just pause myself there, because the Spurs game, and I've said it in like a
Mhm.
thousand reaction videos I've done since the Spurs game. I said we looked very immature, like we didn't handle the occasion, where I thought Tottenham
Yeah.
handled it better. From the mistakes we made, to the silly yellow cards, to the rash challenges, to the erratic football we played, everything. PSV 3-4 days before was the complete opposite.
Mhm.
Incredibly mature. Yes, we're back in the Champions League, but no nonsense, nothing silly, nothing, no, getting hyped up by the occasion, trying things we wouldn't normally try, sort of getting all excited by the Champions League music. It was very mature. We defended our goal well. We did what we had to do. We were just we were just like we just took to it, like we've been like this group of players been playing Champions League football for years, and
Yeah.
that was great to see. It didn't translate against Tottenham. That was partly why it was so surprising. But yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, they took to it really well.
Do you think, and even though Manchester City are 5 points ahead of everybody else at the moment, um, do you think that there might be a title challenge on the cards? Because
Yeah,
I honestly do feel City will slip up at some point.
I do too. I do too. I see a City side that are more controlled than ever.
Yeah.
Now, it's all well and good saying they're more controlled. They don't concede as many chances, therefore they
Mhm.
don't concede as many goals. And they've got Haaland, who will always get a goal a game minimum. So, largely that's going to equate to winning a load of games, winning most trophies. Okay, but I also think, what happens when you lose that control? Like,
Mhm.
what happens when you don't have control of a game of football?
Yeah.
Now, the Centurions, they didn't control every game. I mean, they controlled most. They were so brilliant to
Yeah.
watch. But they weren't like ultra brilliant defensively and never conceding chances, never conceding goals. But they scored so many, they were so relentless,
Mhm.
that even if Man City didn't have control of a game, they would create so many chances that, okay, you might score two or three, but we'll score five or six. Like, and that was the fear of them. You
Yeah.
kind of felt like scoring two, three goals isn't enough against this team. I don't think City have that this year. I don't think they have that fear that if you go a goal or two up, you don't think that might do it, guys. Like, we might get a
Mhm.
point or two out of this. Now, City also, under Pep Guardiola, haven't been starting seasons as well as they finish them. They've been getting up to steam really February, March onwards, and then you see the best version of that side. So I need to sort of be wary of that with everything I say. But they have started well. They are a machine and they're brilliant.
Mhm.
But I'm with you. I think there's a chance that they start to slip at some point, or that things start to look a little hairy for them at some point. And on Arsenal, I think we have reverted more to that controlled model. We don't look as exciting. So the same criticisms and skepticism applies. Um, but I do believe we're ready to challenge for the title. I said it at the beginning of the season. Well, not challenge, we showed that last season. I believe we're ready to win it.
Yeah.
Now, City being better might be the only thing that stops us. But if you get 89 to 92 points and don't win the league, you just got to say it's one of those. Like,
Yeah.
we're in the City and the Pep era, and that just is what it is. Um, I believe we can do it. I really do believe that. And a draw against Tottenham, a draw against Fulham isn't going to change my mind about that. Um, are City better than us? Most people would say yes. I think at our best, when we're firing, I think we can
Yeah,
go punch for punch with them. Some people might be watching this thinking, you delusional Arsenal fan. That's what being a fan's about. No, it's about being a bit delusional
exactly.
and believing you're a bit better than you are and having that hope. But that's fine. I do think the players are there to do it. I really do.
Deep down, I believe that everything can click here, and Iriola, despite our early concerns, might take us to European places. Might be next season going on a tour, probably somewhere like Latvia. Um, we're not going to get Champions League, so it's probably going to be the Conference League. But
Yeah.
Latvia, Moldova, you know,
Let's get some amazing trips, man. Get some amazing trips. I
exactly.
mean, like being in Europe is just great. Like kind of whatever the expectations, playing
Yeah.
against European clubs, playing new clubs. We drew
Yes.
um we drew PSV in the Champions League, and I was annoyed because we had them in the group stage of the Europa last year. Whenever we draw, there's someone we draw regularly in the cup. I think we've had Forest a few times. There's another club. Well,
Mhm.
actually, let me give this example. We've just had Brentford away. We've got West Ham away next in the Carabao. I think you've got
Yeah.
Liverpool at home, haven't you?
Yes, we have.
Please knock them out. I actually think you will, by the way.
Yeah.
I think you'll go full strength and Liverpool will rotate. But anyway, I say all this to say that I hate getting clubs that I know we're gonna like fixtures we're gonna get anyway. So I
Yeah.
hate having Brentford away. I hate having West Ham away. Give
Mhm.
me give me a trip to Port Vale. Give me I don't know who else is in that
Exeter
group.
City.
What a
Exeter
trip!
City.
Going
Yeah,
out
I
to
know.
Exeter, night out, and watch Arsenal. Brilliant. What more could you
Yeah.
want? And that's the thing that does wind me up sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's always
Do you know what? It would be amazing just to go on this European tour, and even if it's the far-flung places that maybe you'd never go to, they're interesting. A Cypriot team in the middle of October, that'd be quite nice.
be an amazing
Make
trip.
a little bit of a holiday of it as well. You
Be
know,
an amazing trip,
happy
honestly.
days. Yeah,
Some
can't
beautiful
imagine
places
it, but
around Europe, man. Honestly, yeah, go check them out.
yeah, you're used to it. We're not at the moment. We just go
Well,
there on holiday.
I'm not sure flying to Munich to get battered every year is quite being used to it. Well, it is used to it, but not in the way you want to be. But
No,
hey,
fair enough.
we had it, we cried about it, we lost it, we wanted it back. Football's
Yeah,
funny, isn't it?
it is. It is. Well, I guess last thing we have to do is we always have to predict every single game. So, James, go on. How is it going to go?
Well, I went with a 2-1 Arsenal win because look. I think I've got to back my team, but I've got to
Yeah.
respect that Bournemouth played good football, and
Hmm.
I could see us having lapses in concentration. Away from home, we seem far more focused than at home.
Hmm.
But this Arsenal team do not deserve my trust for a clean sheet. They've got a couple: Everton, Brentford, a full strength Brentford, by the way. Everton, Brentford, and Palace away. Good on you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask me to list the three toughest away grounds in the league, um, that doesn't include sort of basically Anfield, the Etihad. Those three would be up there. Like those
Hmm.
three would probably make my top five of like the places I least want to go to.
Yeah.
So to get 3-1 nils this season there is really impressive. But uh, I could see us being a little. I don't know. I could see us just having a moment. And Bournemouth, but actually that's a discredit to
Mhm.
Bournemouth. I could also see Bournemouth playing really good football and forcing that moment out of us. But yeah, you guys play good football, and I think you're growing on Iraola, and there's a coming of age moment coming,
Yes.
and I hope that's not us, but it is coming. So let's see,
I
2-1.
th- I think we will improve considerably after that game against Brighton, and I think Iriola will put considering he's come under a little bit of pressure. Believe it or not, in Spain, the pressure is even worse than in this country.
I believe
Um,
that. Yeah,
there's a lot of talk about how he's at risk of losing his job here, which I don't believe. I don't believe he's at risk of losing his job here. I think, at the end of the day, he's got to be given time. If Bill Foley was
hundred
to make
percent.
that decision now, you know, I think it would be a ridiculous one based on, 3 draws, 3 defeats with the run that we had at the start.
But this is so forgive me, right? I'm just having a little look at
Mhm,
your results. Because as far as I'm aware, there's been nothing embarrassing.
no,
Sorry, every time I type
it hasn't.
Bournemouth into
It hasn't.
Google. Right, so here we go. 1-0 up at Brighton, you lost 3-1. Find me many clubs that aren't going to lose at Brighton. Drew
Mhm,
with Chelsea, drew away at Brentford. So those are two really good results. Lost at home to Tottenham, but Tottenham were in great form and you played some
mhm,
really good stuff in that game. You went and lost at Liverpool, but played again, could easily have got back into that game. Went 1-0 up, showed really
mhm.
good signs, and then drew at home to West Ham. So, who have made a good start? So, I'm about to sneeze. So I'm just trying to hold that back.
No, that's all right.
So, this illness, bloody hell. So, what I'm trying to say is, West Ham, who then went on to win their next 3 games
Mhm.
after that, like when you put it into context, it's a great start.
Yeah, it's
Not a great start. It's a very encouraging start.
yeah, I guess it's the way. See, the thing is the Brighton game. I just felt that what we did was we just made the silly mistakes at the back. From kickoff, you shouldn't be conceding, especially your own kickoff, in that space of time. Yeah, I know that we did, what we did at the Emirates last season, but at the same time, it was a very, very quick off the training ground move. It didn't feel like that. I think Iriola will put that right, and I
Yeah.
think we won't make those same mistakes. I honestly don't. Plus, when we've been at home, we haven't looked too bad.
No.
The Spurs game, is the only game at home, of course, out the three that we've been beaten in. But like you say, very, very good Spurs side this year, unfortunately for you guys.
I
Um,
just, if you don't mind, I just had a little look at your
mhm,
like calendar basically, and I really hope he's given time Irola, and I really hope he
yeah,
pulls out a few surprise wins just to get points on the board because I'm just looking at it now. I feel the fixture list can be kind. I know everyone plays everyone home and away, but it
yeah,
can be kind. It can be nasty, and I think there's a slightly nasty one here for Irola where all the all the tough games at home are coming quite early, but even
mhm,
those away trips, the Goodison Park, that comes after Arsenal. Like,
yeah,
that's quite tricky. So I actually think, look at your second half of the season, where even the tough games you got, at least they're landing at home, some of them.
yeah,
It's almost nicer. So I kind of hope, I mean, just sort of scrolling through, like you end the season. I'm just having a look now. After Tottenham away, 30th of December, we go to January. Liverpool at home, West Ham away, Nottingham Forest at home, Fulham away, Newcastle away, City at home, Burnley away, Sheffield at home, Wolves away, Everton at home, Palace at home, Luton away. Like, that's a much nicer balance than what you've
yeah,
basically got now, which is all the games we mentioned: Brighton, Liverpool, Tottenham, West Ham, Chelsea, Arsenal. We've had. Then
mhm,
you've got Arsenal coming. You've got Goodison Park. But then, okay, Wolves and Burnley is two nice games.
mhm,
Then away at City, at home to Newcastle, away at Sheffield, at home to Villa, away at Palace, away at United. Like the 6, 7 after that look quite not like not nasty. Bournemouth will be fine. I really think Bournemouth will be fine.
yeah,
But I hope he gets given the time because
mhm.
the calendar can skew where like the table. And I also think sometimes not till match week 20 they should really start to look at where teams are in the league, really. So I hope he's given the time. I think he'll deserve it.
I think, and I'm not going to bet against my team, but I think we might get a point. And the reason being is I think he'll put what happened in that Brighton game right. But I do agree with you. There's a lot of this starting the murmurs are starting. With regards to Iriola, and some people doubting him, and then of course myself even I turned around and wasn't very impressed by the Brighton game. Those games are going to happen for every manager, but it's how you learn from that. And Gary O'Neill, to be fair to him, learned from his mistakes early on in the season, which there was many, and we put it right. I'm hoping you're right, and I think you will be right in that he'll do a good job. He will follow in Arteta's footsteps, on a different scale of club, of course. But I think he will take us on to the next level.
I
Um,
was right about you lot staying up.
yeah,
I
you
was. I
was.
remember being on the podcast, and I think you were saying I'm not sure, but I hope so. And so I'll
Mhm.
take that. My record on this channel is quite good.
It
I like
is,
Bournemouth. I
yeah.
really hope you guys get it right. I really do.
And to be honest, if they did sack Iraola, there's nobody really that I can comes to mind that I'd want to come on board, apart from Eddie Howe, and I think he's having quite a good time in Newcastle at the moment.
Well, and how long that lasts, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, this is the direction. It might feel like what
Mhm.
everyone's doing to a degree, but you want to play good football. You want to get some good young players in. You want a manager who has shown that they can reinvigorate a side and be entertaining. You're on a really good path. I mean, I think Everton fans would rather. Well, I don't know. I was about to say would rather be in Bournemouth, but yeah, I would think so. There's an optimism, and that's what you want for your club. Hopes all you ever are. You want to feel like you've got a legitimate reason for hope. That's all you ever want for your team.
Yeah, most definitely, mate. Most definitely. Well, James, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on this show.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll do this later on in the season
Hundred
when
percent.
hopefully Iriola is proving you right. I'm sure he will do. I'm sure he
I
will
hope
do.
so.
Fingers
After
crossed.
Sunday or after Saturday. Yeah. As a
um,
as a full time in this game, I hope
yes.
Iraola goes on a fabulous run.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be brilliant. And even, you never know. He might even take some points off teams around Arsenal as well. And that is,
Please,
yeah, well,
that'd be great.
if you look at his track record in Spain, he's beaten Barcelona, he's beaten Real Madrid. So there's a good manager there. That I look at it, there's either one or two things, and I think it's the first one, which is Iriola is a fantastic manager. He's got this great style, but these players just haven't adapted to his style of play. The other option, which I don't think it is that these players can adapt, but Iriola was kind of supported, and the Rayo Vallecano team kind of carried him because they were that good. There was this group of players that just come together, and it happens in football. You see managers where
That can happen.
they it does, but I think it's the first one. I think
Yeah.
what he's going to do is it's just going to take a little bit of time. These players will click, and then hopefully we'll go on a bit of a run. And you never know, take some points off teams around you, mate, and you know hopefully can help Arsenal out. Because honestly, mate,
Yeah.
I'd love to see you guys win the league. I
Oh,
honestly
thank
would. Arsenal
thank
is
you.
the one
I
team
appreciate
I'd
that.
like to see win the league.
I appreciate
So
that a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
Hopefully we do. I'm
yeah.
not overly confident, but I'm back in the team. Let's see.
Yeah, definitely. And it would be mean another year that Spurs are sat below you, um, probably trophyless.
Yeah, well, that's the hope. They're already out the Carabao, so let's just hope for a couple more. Although they seem to be in this title race, which we don't want either. So let's
No.
see.
Yeah, they'll disappear. They'll disappear.
I
As
hope so.
much as I rate Postacoglu, they'll disappear.
Yeah, he's looking good, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, James, like I say, absolute pleasure, and we'll catch up later on in the season, no doubt.
Thank you. But honestly, thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it. It's been great fun and best of luck for the season.
Thanks so much, mate. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this show. Please remember to hit the like, subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Please also do check out our interviews. We had Joe Roach recently, as well as many other special guests as well. Also, do make sure that you do check out a cherry abroad to see what I got up to in the UAE and India very, very recently. It was quite exciting. An amazing, amazing trip. So please do check that out and let me know what you think as well in the comments. But until the next show, up the cherries. We'll see you then.